In 1872, William Stroudley's A1 Terriers entered traffic, and they proved wildly successful. Fast for their size, light on their feet, and fuel efficient, but they were fairly weak in power. This was a problem almost immediately. The lbscr was planning on electrification, and for now, a stronger, faster engine was needed. Industry was booming, and people needed to move around now more than ever. So the next year, Stroudley would address this problem with his D1 class. The Terriers were 060s, the D Tank was an 042. The Terriers, at the time, had a tractive effort of just 7,500 pounds. The D1 had a tractive effort of 13.4 thousand pounds. The Terriers had a 4-foot driving wheels, whereas the D1s were 5 foot 6 inch in diameter. They were stronger, they were faster, and they suited the needs of the time just fine. The engines were comfortable working either busy suburban trains or slow countryside services. The class consisted of 125 engines, 90 of which were built at Brighton, with Nielsen building the rest. At first, they came with 140 psi boilers, but after 1883 the rest of the class were built with one at 150 psi, and in 1892, after Stroudley's death, the engines would be rebuilt with new 160 psi boilers. The new boilers couldn't protect their standing on the railway though, as at the same time they were being reboilered, Robert Billington's D3 class were being introduced to the same services. Stronger, faster, and had more fuel capacity than the D1s, and so the D1s had to go. Unlike the Terriers, the D1s struggled to find a home after their original work was taken. They moved into a mixed bag of secondary passenger services and light goods trains. The first would be withdrawn in 1903, but the class was still in good condition and the crews loved them. D.E. Marsh didn't want the class to go to waste either, and he made an effort to upgrade them, giving them an even bigger, higher pressure boiler and new, larger cylinders. This made the engines unstable at speed though, and so the rebuilds were cancelled. The class's lives before the grouping must have been fairly interesting. Here's some examples. In 1897, an engine derailed at speed running down a bank. This was due to both excessive speed and terrible track conditions. The driver was killed, and the fireman and 30 passengers were injured. In 1904, a freight train was derailed. In 1916, a passenger train derailed with no reported injuries. In 1920, a passenger train had insufficient braking force and ran through the station. It went into a siding, through the buffers, and came to rest on a public road. 13 passengers were injured. By the time of the grouping, 41 of them had been withdrawn, and 84 remained in service. The engines were relatively weak, but they remained popular with crews, so they continued to work a mixed bag of services. During World War II, 6 of them were loaned to the LMS to work in the north of Scotland. 9 engines were given water pumps and firefighting equipment to help put out fires after bombing runs. This was very important because the Southern Railway had the largest passenger ports in the UK, and these places are absolutely vital in times of war. 20 of the engines made it into BR service, but many of them had been in storage for years by this point. By 1951, BR had withdrawn all of them, and one of the engines, which was in private use, made it up to 1956, when its career finally ended. Well, no D Tanks survived. An engine that was heavily inspired by them has. See, Stroudley built a tender version of the D1, called the D2s, and then made express variants of that, the Richmond class, and following that same design philosophy, the B1 Gladstones. The design would also influence 2 of Stroudley's assistants in their careers, those assistants being one Robert Billington and Dougal Drummond. This, I imagine, would be a good candidate for a new build. A light engine, but as powerful as a rebuilt Terrier. Small, crews seem to like it, and it's got this adorable little look to it.